Okay, so as I said, my name is Carrie Hartman. I am happy to be the MC for Women of Toledo. I'm also on the board. I am just so excited to see all your faces. I can't believe I'm like even in company with some of you guys. This is excellent. I've got my Future is Female shirt on. I'm drinking my mug from my first female vice president mug, Kamala Harris. I've got my She Rose behind me. So I'm like really in the International Women's Day mood today. So we're excited to gather again this year. This is our regular Women in Economic Empowerment series, our Power Hours. We used to gather in person at the United Way for lunch from Fallen Father, but we can't do that yet. Hopefully we can do that real soon so we can see each other in person. So we're trying to do this virtually just to keep the conversation going, and in particular to celebrate International Women's Day today. We believe that investing in gender equality and women's empowerment can help eradicate extreme poverty, build vibrant economies, and unlock human potential on a transformational scale. So this year, this is our first Women's Economic Empowerment series of the year, and it's also celebrating our 4th International Women's Day for Women of Toledo. So if you're new to Women of Toledo, welcome. We're happy that you're here. It's the best place in Toledo. But I want to introduce you to our managing director, Nina Corder. She does so many amazing things in Toledo if you don't know her. And she's definitely a person that you should get to know and meet because of all the crazy, amazing stuff she does. I don't even know when she sleeps. I was just talking about how I'm on my 3rd cup of coffee. Like, I don't even know how Nina does it. So anyways, let me throw it over to Nina so she can do some quick introductions.
Well, thank you, Carrie. Just know that the admiration is mutual. You know how I do it because I have all of you women of Toledo that is in the back of my touch screen, right? I just say, hey, help me out with this. Okay. For any of you who new to Women of Toledo, I just want to say welcome. We are excited to put this annual International Women's Day together. A little bit about Women of Toledo. Our mission is to educate, engage, and empower women and youth to keep moving forward. We do have a 4 pillar of programming that we do here is economic development, advocacy, mentorship, and her hub for the marketplace. We have served about 5,300 people since the inception. In the nutshell, that Women of Toledo, we provide a lot of programs and services that cater to marketplace, workplace, family, and community. So how do you get involved with Women of Toledo is how you're doing it today. So you attend. So we highly recommend that you check out our calendar. We do have a lot of program and services. It's either ticketed or free for you to attend. You know, volunteer if you have a time and talent, volunteer with the organization like Carrie Hartman. She is our Vice President of Executive Board. We are lucky to have her time and talent serving the organization. We are not a membership organization, but we welcome you to support us. You can become a part of our supporter. And of course, other than time, talent, and treasure, use your influence. And if you're an organization or company interested in partnering with us because you love what we do and our mission, goal, and objective align with what the organization and company, let's partner together so we can be better and we can work together for a betterment of the community. Partners, talking about partner, of course, we can't do what we do here without our partner. I am excited to have our Welcome Toledo Lucas County, Melly Douglas, partnering with us for our International Women's Day this year. So Melly?
Thank you, Nina. Good morning, everyone. As Nina mentioned, I'm Melly Arribas Douglas, the Welcome Toledo Lucas County Librarian for the Welcome TLC initiative housed at the Toledo Lucas County Public Library. We're so thrilled to partner with Women of Toledo as we continue the work of building inclusive and welcoming communities and as we celebrate International Women's Day. So this Women's History Month, we would like to highlight local efforts by our partners at Advocates for Basic Legal Equality, ABLE, who in collaboration with other partner agencies Welcome TLC, the library, and ABLE are hosting a virtual Ask an Attorney on Housing event this coming Friday, March 12th. It's from 3 to 4 p.m. In light of the recent eviction moratorium and local efforts by ABLE and other partner agencies, please hear from ABLE attorney Reem Soubey and Alicia Kingston while getting your questions answered about your rights as a tenant, what steps you can take to avail of these protections. And we are happy to announce that the event will have both Arabic and Spanish interpretation. So I will include the event information in the chat. With that, I'm happy to introduce our other partners because it takes a village to get this wonderful event together. Sarah Dastagir, who is the Executive Director at the Islamic Center of Greater Toledo, and Sarah Clark, who is the Director of the Center for International Studies and Programs at the University of Toledo. Happy International Women's Day, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us.
Excellent. Well, before we get started, we have a little video to get us in the Women's Day mood. So Nina, do you want to pull up our video?
I do believe that we kind of miss our partner. Sarah, are you unmuted?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, go ahead. And if you want to just talk a little bit about your organization.
Yeah, sure. So I'm part of the Islamic Center Greater Toledo. This has actually been the mosque that I've been attending since I was a child. So it's a very dear place to me, my family as well. So I'm excited to take on this new role. For some of you who may not know, this is the first executive director position at our center. And so the fact that the community chose a young female as my to me. But also, I'm the first, I believe, woman executive director of a major mosque or institution in the United States. So this is an exciting, feature here in Toledo. And so I want to also thank Nina and Melly for all of their support throughout the year. So I'm glad to have got to know them. And also Carrie, I worked with her in the city for a while. So thank you guys for having me. And the Islamic Center Greater Toledo is a proud partner of Women of Toledo at this event. Thank you guys.
Thank you. And Sarah Clark?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sarah Clark, and I serve as the director of the Center for International Studies and Programs at the University of Toledo. Our role at the University of Toledo is to care for all of our incoming international students. We work hard to make sure that the University of Toledo feels like a home to our students, as well as take care of all of their academic immigration needs. We are very thankful to have the partnership with Women of Toledo. Your efforts help to make the community of Toledo feel like home for all of our international students. So we are always here to support in any way we can. And thank you for the opportunity to be here with you all today.
Thank you. All right. Before we get started, here's a little video.
Gender is a pre-written book, and the plot is boring. Daughter, girlfriend, mother, wife, rip out the pages, staple them to your back, and start soaring. Pretty, quiet, weak. They will try to describe you with such things, but you will use their stereotypes and turn them into your wings. When you choose to challenge, gender is a pre-written book, but not all the girls' stories end the same way. 33,000 girls are forced to become child brides every day. 132 million girls are not in school, and their futures are balloons that they watch drift away. But you are the full stop to the story. You are the new sentence that takes it on a different road. When you speak up, you open your palms and you share the load when you choose to challenge. Gender is a pre-written book, but not all of the characters are included, like the First Nations women, who stand as still as statues, always walked past but never acknowledged or seen, or migrant women whose culture stands like a skyscraper, and they're forced to burn down the parts of themselves society doesn't deem convenient, or refugee women who are treated with brutality when we should have been lenient. And you are there as this story unfolds and you are faced with a choice. So choose to challenge. Gender is a pre-written book, and this is your chance to add your own chapter, to call out racism and sexism and use courage to rub it out, to stand where the rest of the world has chosen to sit, to call it out at home, at work, at school, bit by bit, to scream where the world has chosen to whisper, not just for your daughter, your mother, or your sister. Let us choose to challenge. Gender is a pre-written book. And if you're listening to this, then your actions are the pen. Your life is the paper. You are not the oppression of the past. I believe that you are so much greater, stronger, kinder. Choose to create history, not to be created by it. Choose to challenge.
No, it said pre-check is incomplete, and please.
Thanks, Nina. That was very, very moving. That was very cool. So thank you for sharing that. We just, one last reminder, keep yourself on mute and try to put us on speaker view, because that will give you the best experience. So I think we're ready to start our panel. And so I'm going to introduce Dr. Ting Lee. I am super excited to get to know her better because her background is really fascinating, especially in this time of COVID and online school and, you know, all of the stresses that we're going through with kids being home or in school and whatnot. I would just love to hear more about her experience. So Dr. Ting Lee is an expert in educational psychology, which is like fascinating to me. So she is originally from China, but she came to the US to further her education, and she's been at UT since 2014. She has a doctorate degree in educational leadership, a master's degree in educational psychology. So she has a lot of experience, and I'm happy to introduce her today, and she is going to be the moderator of this panel. So take it away, Dr. Lee.
Thank you so much, Carrie. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Welcome. My name is Ting Lee, and this is just a wonderful, exciting moment for us to celebrate this, although in a virtual format. But I'm already very excited to meet all of you. First of all, please allow me to send our appreciation to the program organizers, Nina, Mally, Christina, of course, Carrie, for making this a possible opportunity to have a conversation. And I'm also very sure that all of you, including our panelists and our participants, all of you shine in your own personal and career world. But without this opportunity, we wouldn't be able to meet each other. Our life paths may never cross. That's what amazed me. Although virtual platform may not be the most ideal way, but this opportunity also give us the chances to talk to each other, to learn from each other, and also to empower each other. So I'm very appreciative to the organizers to this opportunity. And I'm also very honored to host this session. And without further ado, let me give the stage to all of our panelists. We have 4 of them today. I will pass the microphone to each of them And because this is virtual, I'm going to call their names one by one. So please unmute yourself as a panelist as I call your name. First of all, let's welcome Dr. Uma Shawanor from the Hindu Temple and Occupational Medicine.
Hi, my name is Uma Shawanor. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a proud mother of an amazing woman, Shakti. I'm a daughter, a sister, and a doctor.
Thank you so much, Dr. Uma. Now let's welcome Ms. Sarah Dastinger, and she's our young leader, executive director from the Islamic Center of Greater Toledo.
So my name is Sarah. I was born and raised in Perrysburg, Ohio. I attended the Islamic Center since, as I mentioned, since I was a child. I went to Perrysburg High School, went to Miami University, where I got the opportunity to study abroad twice. And so it was there when I got to meet women of different backgrounds, women in different professions, that I really felt at home, even abroad. And so then coming back to the United States is when I got involved with Welcome TLC. After I graduated, came back to Toledo. Then I got involved with Welcome TLC, got to work with Melly and know her a little bit more, and work in this space as well with Nita and Women of Toledo. So I'm excited to be at the Islamic Center now. Thank you guys.
Thank you, Sarah. Let's welcome Ms. Vanessa Badillo, the Senior Manager at Dana.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me today and the opportunity to listen to all this group of inspiring women. And as for me, I came from Colombia to the Toledo area almost 3 years ago, fulfilling my dream of expanding or having international experience in the corporate world. And this was thanks to my company, Then Incorporated, who sponsors me and believed in my talent. So I'm happy to be part of the company. I have worked for them over the past 16 years, and well, happy to continue my journey here. My background is basically in business administration, human resources management, and pretty soon I'm excited to be receiving my master's degree in organization development from Bowling Green.
Welcome, Vanessa. Last but not least, let's welcome Wajaban Kamala with the Welcome Bowling Green.
And I made it just in time. Good afternoon, everyone. Yes, my name is Mujaben Kamala, and I reside in Bowling Green. I am a native of South Africa, and I have been in the US since 19 blank blank. I won't tell you how long that is. And I have an undergraduate from Ball State and did my grad work at UT. And I'm happy to call Bowling Green home. And I am a mother, I'm a wife, I am an aunt, I am a daughter, and also an entrepreneur. Nice to meet you all.
Thank you, welcome. As you already know a little bit, our panelists, including myself, all come from everywhere in the world. So we are proud to call ourselves the Global Women Group. So just to give a brief introduction to today's session, do you know that the first celebration of International Women's Day actually started in the US over 120 years ago in 1909? So it's a long history of women celebrating this day with each other, cheering up. And the theme of this year's International Women's Day is hashtag choose to challenge. A challenged word is an alert word, and from challenge comes change. However, we all know that humans as social beings, like we are all born into a pre-shaped world, right? It's not always born into the world you imagined. As a group of women, we always been seen as a secondary, objectified, weak, or giving more than taking social group, right? We can find all of these stereotyped women images or stories pretty much at every corner of our daily lives. So to me, choose to challenge really should start from actually vocalize the biased realities that we are all experiencing in our daily life, and to mobilize ourselves and mobilize people around us to challenge these biased realities. So the format of today's session is going to be that I will raise a few questions to each of our panelists. They will answer the questions from their personal own experience. And please try to relate and comment on these questions in the chat box. We'll definitely, by the end of the session, have a Q&A session to engage all of you, and we can interact after all the panelists' questions. But before we start, I also want to raise a challenge to each of you, even though you are not the panelists scheduled to talk. I want you to think about your own life and think of one woman that in your life inspires you the most. It can be your mom, your sister, your best friend, your teacher, or exaggerate. Think of this woman, and while we are doing the session, asking the panelists to answer each of the questions, I want you to try to imagine you are that woman that inspired you the most, and think about how would they answer the question that we are asking. Also, please also try to imagine yourself as her, the woman inspired you most, and think about how many biased realities that she had to go through in order to conquer the obstacles to become your role models. So that's your homework for the next hour, and hopefully we will engage each other after the panelist session. Okay, without further ado, I'm going to raise the first question to all of our panelists. The first question is, what International Women's Day means to you? What's your story as a global woman? Please use 2 to 3 minutes to interpret your own story. And we will start with Mojab. Go ahead, take it away. Oh, you are muted, Mojab.
Yes. All right. Again, my name is Mujaben Kamala, and I'm the coordinator of Welcome BG. And just a little bit about Welcome BG, I missed that part of it, is that it's a city initiative of inclusion that recognizes differences between people, and yet we celebrate that diversity as a valued asset. And our mission is to develop and create Bowling Green as a safe and welcoming, inclusive area for everyone, including immigrants, new Americans, as well as people of diverse backgrounds. And our areas of focus: economic development, living and thriving, and sustainability. As I mentioned before, I am from South Africa, and I grew up surrounded by a bunch of strong women. And at age 10, I was already in a boarding school of all women. At some point, I thought, whoa, I'm on female overload, and I needed to escape that. But as I matured, I realized that it wasn't the women that I needed to avoid. It was just I needed a certain caliber of women in my life. I realized that surrounding myself with the right women, I found that I had mentors, I had loyal friends, I had supporters, sisters, and cheerleaders. So International Women's Day to me means pausing and acknowledging just the mere presence and strength of the female sex. What a phenomenal privilege and a responsibility it is to be a woman.
Thank you, Mojab. Thank you very much. Now let's welcome Dr. Uma. What's your perspective as a global woman?
So International Women's Day, for me, is a day to celebrate women's achievements in many arenas, and a day to remind myself that ongoing dialogue and more extensive work needs to be done to overcome the various barriers that women face. My story is I was born and brought up in India. In my mid-20s, I went to Jamaica, lived there for about 4 years. And then I came to the US, in fact, to Toledo in my 30s. And I've been here in Toledo for 26 years as a proud immigrant. From what I have seen and experienced, the challenges for women are often similar in all these cultures with varying cultural contexts, especially in the US. contrary to what so-called Western world like us in the US tries to portray. To me, this narrative about other cultures being subpar in women's issues is because of some of the biased rhetoric that is present. I'm sure you're all aware of. Oftentimes, other cultures would not be influenced by the patriarchal standards if it wasn't for the residual effects of the white colonialism. However, this allows all of us, like how we are doing today, to unite in various ways from various backgrounds to end this patriarchy.
Thank you, Dr. Uma. Now let's hear Vanessa. What's your opinion about being a global woman?
Well, what Women's Day means to me has definitely changed over time, and as I have had the opportunity to explore other cultures. So, but I remember back in the day, in my school years, I have memories of how Women's Day had two focuses of celebration. On one side, I remember how we recognize all working women. But on the other side, clearly remember how we use this day as a time to show appreciation for women's contribution to our society, the role that women play in their nurturing and caring personality, caring role, building the values through family. So that was a huge thing that I remembered. But then as I was trying to force my way into the professional world and as I start facing myself, the challenges of earning a place and earning my confidence in the workplace, I realized that Women's Day and all this movement that has been created for many years already is more like a platform for telling our stories and encouraging each other to, stop second guessing ourselves and encourage also to make those choices, hard choices at time, and decide where we want to put our talents, whatever we want. And also beyond that stereotyped role that as women we have had, and that through these celebrations, sometimes we are reinforcing. So that's how I see it today. I see Women's Day as a moment to celebrate, but at the same time, I see it as a moment to revisit and reinvigorate our vision of whatever we want to create, as it was mentioned in the video. So, for me, my personal story, moving to the US has been an amazing journey, but at the same time challenging. But sometimes as women, as professionals, we need to take a leap of faith. We need to challenge ourselves, get out of the comfort zone. And for me personally, it has been about challenging, battling my deepest fears, and in some cases, battling against others who tell you or who doubt of you and your capacity to make hard things. And well, that was kind of my case. People being afraid, a single woman at that time, now I'm married, a single woman moving alone to a big country, a new culture. So it has been great. I don't regret anything.
Thank you. That's a very powerful story. Now let's hear Sarah.
So I am Afghan American. Both my parents are immigrants from Afghanistan. They actually met in Toledo. So for me, International Women's Day is celebrating not just the diversity of women from across the world, but embracing different cultures and not passing judgment before we understand them. Because while I am Afghan American, I'm also Muslim American. There's a lot of forced stigma or these narratives of oppression that are put on Muslim women. Most common, they say the hijab is a sign of oppression, when in fact, my hijabi family or some of my family members who wear the hijab or my friends, they see it as a sign of empowerment. For them, they love their hijab. So I think International Women's Day is celebrating our diversities, not passing judgment, but also not speaking up for other women. Let minority women speak for themselves, let them have their own voice. And what you do is you lift their voice, you celebrate their voice, and you don't pass judgment on them, but you celebrate them. Because we're all beautiful and we come from different cultures, different backgrounds. And if we don't listen to our fellow sisters in different cultures or countries, then we're oppressing their voices. And so I think International Women's Day is for us all to hear everyone's voices and celebrate it and really be agents of change, and not, pass judgment. So I think this is a beautiful day. And so I'm glad to, celebrate it with everyone here.
Thank you, Sarah. And thank you to every panelist just shared your view of your experience celebrating this day. And I'm going to share a brief story of my first personal impression of the International Women's Day. Although I told we shared that the day had like 100 years history, but my first impression of, oh, this is a celebration day was actually when I was 6 years old. My school was very close to my mom's workplace, which is a school too. So every day I typically go to my mom's school after my school, so she takes me home. One day, I remember on a breakfast table, and my mom said, "Oh, you don't need to come to me today. I have a half day off." I said, "Why?" Mom said, "It's the International Women's Day. We got a half day off, and we also will have a gift from work." I was like, "Oh, it's good to be a woman because you get half day off." Well, over a whole year, you got half day off, right? At least as a woman. And I told her, "Oh, I'm glad I'm a woman too. So I will celebrate it later in my life." And my mom looked at me in a, smiling, but definitely a love story behind the smile. And then she looked at me and said, "You wait and see." So on that day, when she came back home, of course, she came back home earlier, and she brought a gift from work. And can you guys guess what kind of gift she brought from work? And that moment, actually, I reflect later in my life and realize, oh, that's why she smelled that way. She brought home the gift from her company, and it's a bag of laundry detergent. I was like, okay. Oh, later in my life, I realized that's what the half day off means. You got to fill in your, assumed social way going home from work. Instead of celebrating the day, you got to do your other housework. What kind of people give you that kind of, gift? And it didn't occur to me because when I was a young girl, I didn't realize, okay, that's like a social status quo for women as a social role, being the mom, the housekeeper. But later in my life, I realized this, oh, we do have an invisible ceiling there. You feel it, although by paper, you don't see it. You can pretty much do everything on the paper as compared to men. But we do have that. And as I grow up and as I move to the US, the more I talk to people, the more I actually interact with my peer women, I feel like although like our panelists, we all look very different. We come from very different background. We have a different life experience. But the more I interact with people, the more I realize how similar we are as a woman group. We all share the same challenge. We all share the best reality, and we all briefly talk about it, express ourselves about the challenges. And I think that's the most powerful thing for International Women's Day. That's the day we exchange our ideas and become a group, no matter how different we are from each other. Okay, so are you ready for the second question? The second question is deep. Okay, for all of our panelists, how do you promote inclusiveness in your field of expertise and your day-to-day life? So both your field of expertise, your workplace, and your daily life. How would you promote the inclusiveness? Let's start with Dr. Uma.
Amazing information by everybody so far. Really enjoying it. So there are many ways to promote inclusiveness, as everybody knows. For me, I think these three is something that I think about more so. So in rooms and spaces, to try to use my privilege and whatever power I hold to advocate for women, even when I feel I may not be liked for what I say and do. Of course, as we all know, this is always a challenge and not easy to speak up by any means. But what I have realized is consciously practicing and working on it over time makes it a little bit easier. It can still be intimidating. Also be a mentor, leader, and a support for women around me, be it to my family members, friends, or at the workplace. Creating a strong and safe support system that we can count on is key. It was very key. It's very important to me, and it has helped me. Having a strong, safe support system around me is what has brought me to the point where I can speak up to some extent. And most importantly for me is to ensure that every day in my interactions, I'm constantly aware and practicing to promote women's issues, and also working on my own conditioned biases, which is hard to understand, but I feel that's very important for all of us and for me to understand my own biases so I can move forward and help others.
Thank you, Dr. Uma. I think that's a very good point, that even though we are the minoritized social group, but we still also need to keep that awareness of we need to be sensitive towards all the bias towards other women social groups. Thank you for sharing the point. And let's see, Vanessa, what's your point on this question?
Well, the first thing that came to my mind is that I have the best job in the world, because my role at Dana is about managing processes to enable people to develop to their full potential, women and men at the same time. And this includes, putting in place the tools, the processes to cultivate the knowledge and the skills that they need to advance their careers. But also very important in our organization is implementing programs to raise awareness on unconscious bias. And also as an organization, being aware that we are instilling the behaviors for appreciating our differences and valuing people regardless of their gender, their personal preferences, and all the different dimensions of diversity. So I think that organizations play a critical role in promoting inclusiveness, and some of the things that we do at Dana that I think is good to mention is reviewing our policies, making sure that we are eliminating potential barriers for women to advance, and ensure that opportunities are equally accessible for all people. So I think that also in organizations, in the communities, in schools, we should have more spaces for constructive challenge. I think that in organizations, one clear example and something we have at Dana is the Business Resource Group for Women, where we are mentoring, we are advocating for women. We have executive sponsors, leadership teams sponsoring women inside and outside the organization. And being a woman, a minority myself in this community, I feel the personal commitment of being a person open to share my story, open to be a mentor for whoever reach out to me, and be part of organizations like Women of Toledo that are doing a great job trying to raise awareness about women's challenges, but also the opportunities that we all have together.
Thank you, Vanessa. I think your job itself is a 365-day pioneer job trying to engage women and help immigrant marginalized women group. Thank you for being there, holding the post for all of us. Now let's hear Sarah.
So for me, how I envision promoting inclusiveness in my workspace is, I think, first recognizing the women who've made it possible for me to be in the space that I am, recognizing the fight that they fought, but also making sure that it's not just singularly focused on me, but focused on other women in the community. I mean, thankfully, we have a lot of Muslim young leaders in our community, and promoting their voices, making sure that they have a seat at the table. And I think when we talk about a seat at the table, for me, it's not just having as many people represented in a room, but having them have decision-making powers or decision-making voices, making sure that they are able to move and change policies or whatever they can in their space. So recognizing that whatever space or room I walk into, for at the beginning of my career, I was the only either only minority woman or Muslim woman entering in certain spaces. So it then became on me to make sure that I was diversifying the room, finding other minority voices, other future leaders, and making sure that they had a space too. I think that's really important for me. While I still am young, I think there's still a lot of hurdles for our youth. And I think that we just need to, whatever space we enter, making sure that we make it as diverse as we can, and knowing that we have the tools, and always speak up and make sure that you don't back down. It may seem intimidating at first in certain spaces, but if you don't speak up, then you're being silent and you're oppressing other voices. So I think that's really important.
Thank you, Sarah. And I wish like I had your depth of understanding of diversity when I was your age. I came to a better understanding now, but I'm so proud. Like as a young woman, you already been helping other women, trying to help them vocalize themselves. At the University of Toledo, we work with over 1,800 international students. We also work with a lot of minorities, traditional African American students, Latino students, students with all kinds of special needs on the campus. So diversity and minority has been an ongoing theme for our service in the center already. Specifically for my field of work, I teach ESL classes. So a majority of my female students actually come from like another country who probably had a more conservative views on educating women. So a lot of my students came to our ESL center, and often I ask them the question, why are you here? Why do you want to learn English? And many times they may come with idea about, oh, I don't know, my husband brought me here and I'm joining the English classes because I'm here and I want to learn English, and then I may become more adjusted to the culture here, which is legit. Learning English will help them to better adjust to local community and social life. But in our ESL field, one of the teaching pedagogy is called active listening. Like I always try to share with my husband, you are listening, but you are not actively listening to me. You listen to me, but you don't hear me. So that's active listening is actually a skill we try to use in our ESL teaching world. We try to actively engaging students by listening to what they really need, what's their life goal for themselves. And for our female students, especially in ALI, we always try to ask them, what's your goal after graduating from the language program? Do you want to get into an academic program? Do you want to find a job? And we started to help them visualize themselves after learning English programs. And we try to help them build their independency from, just being here because I'm here with my husband or with my family members. And most of them do have big visions for themselves. And a lot of them achieved a lot after graduating from the program. We have doctors, we have lawyers, we have students graduated with the AOI, entered the academic program and did a lot than they originally wanted for themselves. So I think it's very important for all of us to be active listeners instead of imposing our ideas about, okay, you are minority woman and you have all the minority symbols or marks on your head, then we know what you need. So let me give you what I think you need. I don't think that will be the case for all of our students, and I don't think it should be the case at all. So I really call every one of us to look at the like female students or female people we work with in our life, especially the minorities, to engage them, not only because they are not good with their language skills, because believe me, humans can communicate without language proficiently. So let's try to be active listeners and try to listen to them and include their voices in their own growth. So that's my perspective for this question. There is another question on the list. This question is about how to embrace embrace each other in the whole process of building the women's community. I am going to start with a quote from Angela Davis. She said, the process of empowerment cannot be simply defining in according with our own particular class interests. We must learn to lift as we climb. I love that quote. We must live as we climb. So we got to be each other's cheerleader. We got to be each other's sisters along the way. So the questions for our panelists is how to be inclusive, not only in your workplace and the marketplace, how to inspire women in your community and the families. In other words, if you have a teenage niece who came to you for life advice as a woman, what would you tell her to prepare for the future professional and social life? So we will start with Vanessa.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that telling our stories could be liberating for ourselves and our fears. And it could also be inspiring to other women, even though telling stories sometimes is difficult. Well, at least it is for me. I need to recognize that for several years, I had a very low sense of worth, own worth. And I think that, well, it wasn't good. It wasn't good at all. It was very terrible to the point that being very young, I felt the need to ask for permission or apologize when I wanted to ask for something or when I wanted to give my opinion. And I realized that this was a negative mindset imposed somehow by my culture, but to some extent also to the approach that my family had regarding success, regarding access to education, regarding, opportunities to advance. And I think that in my case, growing up, I was discouraged from boasting about my accomplishments because women are supposed to be modest. And this is probably the case of many women in the US or in other countries as well. And I think that that's why we need more spaces, more institutions like this, more events like this to tell women our stories and let them know that it's possible to thrive. And I also think that we need more education, but not only on the formal sense. At the schools, probably we should have more programs for children. But I think that inside families, we need to teach young women, boys as well, to recognize their potential, embrace the power that they have, and make it worth. And not only that, not only just telling them how capable they are, but also teaching them tools, teaching them to define a vision, define a purpose for their life in the future, and empower them to make choices to get there. So I think that is very altruistic, but that's what, based on my experience, what I think could help to inspire others.
Thank you, Vanessa. I do agree with you that personal story can be super powerful, especially when they can relate themselves to you or to a person you mentioned or tell the story of to your niece or to the young woman in your life to encourage them instead of okay, you can do this with like a slogan of emptiness. We can always encourage them with personal stories. Let's hear Sarah's idea about how would you encourage your niece, although you're still very young, when if they come to you ask for life advice as a woman?
Well, I have little cousins that I'm close with. And so every once in a while we'll hang out. And so at first it was just when I came back to Toledo, I was like, it's really important to stay close to my family. But then I realized, you know, my interactions with them kind of, they see me as a role model. So how I encourage them, how I help them to find different opportunities, or for them to, you know, find their interests, whatever they like, and making sure that when I do hang out with them, that I'm helping them, that they're, you know, promoting whatever their interests are and taking part in listening to them. Because I think as young women, sometimes our voices, Vanessa, as you was mentioning, you know, we don't want to celebrate our accomplishments. We don't want to live in our realness and our true identity. So making sure that, you know, I'm celebrating their interests with them. I think that's important. Just hearing them, listening to them, because kids are smart. I learn more from them than I do from some adults. And so just making sure that we hear their voices, because they're very sharp, and not putting them down before they have an opportunity to even take a few steps. So I think that's really important for me.
Thank you, Sarah. Let's listen to Mojab. What's your idea, and how would you tell a youngster the life otherwise as a woman?
I would agree in starting when they are still young, because I view them as a blank canvas where the world and the people have not told them that they're not good enough, or that they cannot do such and such and such. When you get them at that age and letting them be free to express, even if it sounds crazy to us, let them be free to say, this is what I would like to be. Example, what I did with my children, I have two girls. They were still around 4 or 5 years old, and each one got a Ziploc bag, and inside it's what I refer to as a wig, WIG, which is wild and improbable goals. There they are free to write whatever they want to be. I want to be a doctor, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to get married, whatever it may be. That is their vision that I believe the creator has put in them before they heard my voice or anybody else's voice that told them that they couldn't. So anything that they did from that point on, every single year they revisited that Ziploc bag to see if their goals have changed, just like you would revise your business plan to say, am I still on tag? I'm still on target? Am I still going to have to adjust a few things? I remember one time they'd gone to a dentist, and the dentist came out and said, your daughter said she's going to go to an Ivy League school. Where does she get that from? And literally in her mind, because whatever decisions she makes thereon, whether the friends, whether she gets pregnant before she gets married, what are those decisions, who her friends are and where she goes and kind of boyfriends, if her mind knows that I owe this to myself because this is my dream, then anything that's going to divert them from that dream, then they know that this is not where they belong. And sure enough, they did exactly that. They went to the best schools and they did whatever. So the dream has got to be supported, celebrated, and make sure that if you get the doors open, don't close that door. Let someone else go through that door because someone else opened the door for you before. And sometimes we can be our worst enemies, but at the same time, be our very best cheerleaders when we not just only be the only ones at the table, but making sure that there's room for somebody else, because that's what becomes our legacy.
Thank you, Mojab. I do agree that opening doors is the enormous power for them, because a lot of times I feel like we are powerless because we don't know what we can do. We don't know what questions to ask in order to open the doors. But once the door is open, we as like older women or their mentor or their like mothers or you know, aunt, we need to tell them it's there. It's the direction. You just need to be encouraged to go there, fearless. Thank you for sharing your personal educating story about with your children. Let's hear Dr. Uma.
So, how to inspire women, young, old, and myself sometimes, I need inspiration all the time too. I think, like we talked about the storytelling, I think sharing our stories, not just about our achievements, but also our failures, I feel is very important. Because when, young people see an older person, older adult, who's also already working and, has a home, or, has achieved things, they might miss the part where we struggle. So it's, how we have addressed it. So it's very important to share not just the achievements, but the failures that we go through. And understanding that within women, there are varying levels of privilege and power. And that we must leverage in our own capacity, to uplift others. And like, people have already shared, asking ourselves, if I'm in a room, who's not in the room with me? In spirit, how can we uplift the most marginalized in us in that room or in a gathering? The other thing I really feel is very important is for young people especially to understand and learn the challenges to women, because this will help all of us to be better prepared and address it. And when there are setbacks, know that it is from a system that is set against us. Never beat yourself up. Be forgiving to yourself. I think of a quote that's not mine, which says, "Strong back and soft front," which means to me, be strong, but don't forget it's okay to have a soft, caring heart. And always remember, to all of us, we are stronger than what people want us to believe.
Thank you, Dr. Uma. Thank you for addressing this question. Actually, I was going to give all of you, the panelists and our audience, unscheduled question here. It's not scheduled, but as I was listening to all of your comments, I was going to ask you something Dr. Uma addressed. As a young girl, when you enter to your social life, no matter starting from kindergarten or you are, as old as entering college or entering your career world, what would you tell a girl if she had a major setback? For example, my niece wanted to study engineer and he was simply laughed at in a chemistry class or physical class by the instructors and the peer students by saying, "Hey, you're a girl, how can you study engineer?" And then when they look around, they don't see a lot of role models, at least the successful stories of female engineer in the world encouraging them. So they came to you without just a general question about life advice, but they came to you with a general setback, and they were frustrated, and they can be in tears, and they can really feel discouraged. And what would be the words you tell them if they already have a bad experience about being, and because of they being a woman? And I'm just going to throw the question to the panelists. They are not prepared, but what would you tell them if they came to you with frustrations to cheer them up, go on with the journey?
I think first and foremost, you try not to compare yourself to somebody else. We might all be women, different cultures, different backgrounds, different strengths, and we were given different talents and gifts to begin with. The danger is when you compare yourself to somebody else, but because each and every single one of us has something unique about us that needs to be celebrated. Now, if it's a matter of a disappointment, turn that into a teaching moment to say, life is going to be like this, but the most important thing, how then do you get up? Then hopefully, if it happens also to somebody else, how do you help the next person? Because you also yourself have been there.
Powerful. Any other panelists want to give some suggestions?
So I would say, I would tell them that the only limitations you have are those you put on yourself, truly, because once you set a bar for yourself, that's how high you are aimed to achieve. So you set the bar yourself, you set your limits that you want, or have no limits. But you hear all these stories of different CEOs, entrepreneurs who were told no in the beginning, countless times, rejected, but they continued to persevere, and they're resilient. So don't set limitations, or don't let anyone else set your own limitations, and continue to do what you want to do.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. So Vanessa and Dr. Uma, I believe you both have some ideas about maybe you had the experience of having a young girl coming to you with major frustration. What would you tell them?
Well, I pretty much echo what the other panelists have mentioned. I can relate to that to some extent. Not that I was the only woman in the class, but for example, I was the first woman in my family, many generations of my family to go to university. And at the beginning is like, well, why do you need to go to school? Why we have been doing just fine. Why do you need to do that? But I mean, at the end of the day, is my life, and you need to be sometimes stubborn and dare to challenge those opinions, because at the end, it is you, the one that is going to live with yourself. So I think that is about being brave and making those hard choices, and looking, be surrounded for people by people that share your mindset and that can encourage that. So that would be my advice.
Thank you, thank you. Dr. Uma, would you like to add anything to the question?
I mean, I agree with what, I mean, I think pretty much everybody has shared, the most important things, that when somebody is disappointed, it's very important, to understand, like they shared that have goals, and sometimes it might take longer than what you think or what others you see others doing, but have the patience and be persistent. Do not give up. Take small steps, reach out to anybody and everybody who can help. Do not be shy about asking people for resources, or don't feel that you're being selfish by asking people. Just reach out, because when you get to the point where you want to be, then you can pay it forward or backward, or whichever way. You can always help people in different ways. So reach out and do the best that you can.
Dr. Lee, can I add one thing too?
Sure, of course.
I want to also add, I'm assuming they're probably listening to this Women of Toledo lecture. So refer to Women of Toledo. They have a mentorship program. And so they have a strong group of, powerful women leaders who are willing to help. I think we've seen that. So make sure to reach out to those channels. Women of Toledo, I always have to give them a shout out, Nina and the entire team. So making sure that you connect with those women who support other women and are willing to uplift their voices, I think, in those difficult times too, is important.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I was going to mention this point as well, because we are not in this alone. We are all in this together. The University of Toledo and Women of Toledo, like we have a lot of local organizations that are supporting international or minorities and including women. So like as Dr. Uma said, reaching out is not something you should be embarrassed about. We should encourage all the young women or ourselves, if we meet any challenges, to get ourselves surrounded by the right people. I always feel your surrounding is the most important part of your life. Like I always try to surround myself with powerful or inspiring positive people, so I feel them. I'm very sensitive towards the people around me. If I have a lot of pessimistic vibes going on, I would be down with them too. So choose your life circle carefully, and also surround the woman in your life, your niece, your daughter, your sisters, with the positive women or positive people in their lives. So no matter where they got the frustration, no matter where they tripled themselves, there is always this support team, a village to raise them back up. Because we all know that at a certain point of our lives, we will all fall to some kind of distressed information situation, simply because we are women. So thank you all for sharing your insight. And The last question I have on the agenda is a high note. I want this to be a lifting, climate lifting session to all of us. So for our panelists, I want to ask you, what's your hope or advice to our next generation to support inclusiveness, self-growth, reflection, value added to support the local community or members? What would be your high notes for people to take away from the session? Let's start with Sarah.
So like I cut out a little bit. So like a high note for listeners to kind of self-grow. And I think the biggest thing, so there's this song that Janet Mock, the artist takes like a quote from Janet Mock, and she's like, a negative thing that we say is like, oh, you're doing too much. And she's like, my internal resolution is to do too much. And I think, women, we hear that a lot. Don't do too much, don't do this. Or women who are mothers who also, want to work, or who are full-time moms. That's a big job in and of itself. Do too much, do more than what other people tell you to do. So, again, don't let others set your limitations.
Thank you, Sarah. And I think you are living as an example, as a young woman being the first for all kinds of scenarios. And we can't wait to see you achieving more and shine in your own world. And we will be your cheerleaders along the way.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Let's give the microphone to Majab. What would you give as a high notes?
Definitely to be the best reflection of yourself and be who your creator intended you to be. And people will gravitate towards you. Dare to be different, and don't let anyone define you. Don't let anybody write your story. Grab hold of that pen and you write your own story. Surround yourself with people who are smarter than you are, and just realize that your legacy is not living for yourself, but living for others as well.
Thank you, Mojab. Mojab, I really echo the image of holding that pen, because a lot of times when women are seen as we are weak, we are physically not strong enough to hold our own pen to write our own stories. But it's a different story when it talks about your spirit strength. And a lot of times we are stronger. We are the strongest, holding up your whole family, your whole community, and
Yes.
we are strong. Don't let other people tell you you are not strong just because you look not as physically strong as the others in your life. Thank you, Majab.
Mhm.
Okay, next one. Let's hear Uma. What would be your high note?
So the high note is right here. We are 75 people on this call. It's just amazing that we have, that so many people are engaged in this conversation. So that is so important. And also, like, the other thing that I see is a very high note is like the younger people, like Sarah, shout out to Sarah and her, generation, and the younger gen. I feel they're so much more engaged in this conversation, and they're ready to push the envelope even further at every step of the way. And also we see some of the women in seats of power, more women in the seats of power. So let's encourage every woman who's running for office or wanting to do anything in the community. Let's root for them and support them, and I think that's gonna be the best thing going forward.
Thank you. Vanessa, what's your takeaway high notes for everyone?
Yeah, so building on and taking all the comments that I hear today, I think I'm convincing myself that building inclusiveness starts at home with our families, parents having this talk with their children, letting them know their value and letting them be whatever they decide to be, and just make sure that they are along the way with them, not imposing what they should do, telling them what is right, what is wrong, supporting them, encourage them to fail and encourage them to learn from those failures and continue the journey. I think that what Dr. Ruma said, we have an important number of people attending today's event. I will feel that we need to spread the message in the family, but also in the communities in whatever ways we can.
Thank you, Melissa. Thank you all for sharing your notes. Before we open the session to everyone, I want to make two additional notes, two calls to every single one of you. First of all, please remember that this session is never to teach us how strong women are. We are already very strong. So the purpose of this session is to changing the way the world perceives women and let the world see the strengths we have. And as many of you put in the comments, yes, Carrie said, like more women, because as women, we know each other. We know how hard it is to achieve even an equal position as the other half of the society to get there. So once we open the door, we hold the door open and try to encourage more women along the way, trying to achieve what we have in our past. So please make sure that you do that after this session, like in your daily life, which already many of you are doing. And it's very powerful, and I personally feel very encouraged. And I just really wish we have a longer time to listen to each of your stories. And I really want to open the floor, Nina and Carrie, to everybody to share your comments, questions, or your thoughts.